Hello and welcome to this tutorial over how to make a fabulous black, white, and gold hand-lettered birthday card. This birthday card concept was inspired by this lettering art, The Greater Things Are Still Ahead, that is included in Nico Ing's composition ruler bundle. So I will be using my 5-inch composition ruler for my card today. You do not have to have a composition ruler in order to make this card. It just makes life a whole lot easier. I was also inspired by the lettering composition handbook. I was just flipping through it and seeing the great tips it has, like starting off with drawing a middle guideline, and it has a lot of layout tips that I think are invaluable. So that helped me a lot. I'm still not sure exactly what the card is going to look like, but let's just wing it and get there. So I've already drawn these guidelines. This line is 10 inches long and this line is 7 inches long. Let's just go ahead and cut this out. And I like to keep this bit and cut it in half, roughly in half, for bookmarks for later. So this cardstock that I've got is a 100-pound cardstock, quite hardy. You don't have to be picky about what cardstock you use because your ink is rarely going to run on cardstock. If you're using gold ink, you're using white ink, these are just inks that are too viscous to run. So once you've got that cut out, you can just go ahead and fold this in half. Really try to line up those corners. And then if you have a bone folder, it's awesome for going like this. I'm actually going to try using the composition ruler, see if that'll work. And it works beautifully. So if you have a composition ruler, you can use it as a bone folder. We're just reinforcing that fold so it's nice and clean. So I've gone ahead and centered my card underneath the composition ruler, and I've drawn vertical lines where the center is. I'm going to go ahead and draw one continuous guideline here. And then, as I learned in my lettering composition handbook, I need to figure out what I'm actually going to say. So I'm using this for inspiration, and it says greater things are still ahead. I think I'll modify that to write happy birthday, dear Marina, and then maybe a heart or something to fill out the space down here. So I want to make a layout that is roughly like Nico's here. So I'll want to make sure that my lettering is going to be nice and centered. So I'm lining up the top of this composition ruler with this, and then line up the bottom. And this way I have two guidelines that will allow me not to go further down than this or further up than this. So now we'll do happy on a wave. So I've rotated my composition ruler. I'm going to make a wave here, and then I'll just push this up and go ahead and make two more waves. So I've got that part. And then I'll go ahead and make a line underneath, rotate this composition ruler, and make a nice line here. So what I'm thinking is this part will say happy, and it will have a larger H, which is why I've included 3 guidelines instead of just 2. And then this will say birthday. And then let's make something for dear. So then this part can be dear. Using a white pencil, by the way, really, really handy for layouts, lettering, and calligraphy on dark paper. And then for the name part, let's make another semicircle. Push this up a bit. And then we'll just draw around this so we can reach all the way to this bottom guideline. And there we go. Now I'm going to speed up the video as I just experiment with different lettering styles here. I've got a black eraser here. This is going to come in really handy because you're always going to run into mistakes or compositions, lettering that just doesn't look so great as you're trying things out. Okay, at this point, I'm pretty happy with how this looks. It's just time to go through and add some flourishes. I like to put in some calligraphy flourishes in addition to, you know, this and that as far as decorative elements go in order to fill out the message. So I'll speed the video up as I experiment with that. So for the flourishes, you can see how I worked off of my ascenders here, like these two strokes are ascenders, and then also my descenders in order to elongate those strokes and make some nice flourished tails or flourished elements to help really fill this out. And now I'm going to add some stars and lines to make things a little more festive. You know, I actually don't love the direction that this is going with all those stars. It's looking a little cluttered, so I'm going to erase those. All that hard work, I know. I think since we do have so many flourishes here that are already filling out the space, just a couple of stars will do. Things don't have to be so super cluttered. So let's try that on and see how just a couple of stars do. Okay, this looks pretty good to me. I'm not going to know for sure until we add ink, but I'm going to scan this so you have this draft example. And when I get back, let's just do a time lapse over adding ink. Okay, just a quick explanation of what I'm going to do, or what I plan to do at least. I like how Nico made the top parts of these letters opaque, and then he added dots, and then eventually there's just black here at the bottom. So I'm going to do that for happy and birthday. And then, well, we'll see how I feel when I get to the Dear Marina part. But I'm just keeping this in front of me as a reference. I suggest you do the same if you have this lettering composition bundle, and we'll see where that takes us. Okay, I've given this a few minutes to dry. Now it's time to very, very carefully erase the pencil guidelines. I'm only attempting this after a few minutes because I live in Colorado, which is a super, super dry climate. If you live in a more humid climate, I strongly encourage you to wait overnight, like let the ink dry overnight before you try this, because white ink can feel dry, but then you find out it's not really dry. And after you've spent so long making something like this, you certainly don't want to find out that the ink isn't dry through a smudge. So wait as long as you can and then erase. A lot of people would call this card done at this stage, and I really should, but I just can't help myself. I've got to add some dots just to up the festive factor a bit. So I did have those little dots that I drew in my draft to complement the strokes, but I think I'm just going to add some random sizes of circles here to sort of mimic light, like different sizes of stars, and just dots always make things a little more festive. Those dots were a bit of a gamble, but luckily for me, that is exactly what my motif needed in order to feel a little fuller and more festive. So I am comfortable calling this done now. I hope that you enjoyed watching my process as I created it. Obviously, a card like this takes quite a while to make. I think I just spent, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half doing this. And I'm okay with that because I just needed some time to zone out and enjoy. So if you don't have that kind of time, that's fine. You can absolutely make a simpler birthday card. There are plenty of tutorials on the TPK website. I'll link to them in the video description so you can find a card that matches your personality and the amount of time that you have. But if you've got a healthy amount of free time today, you want to make something super cool, this is a fabulous concept. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe.